Well, guys, thank you for coming on today. I'm really excited to get through this because I think there's a lot of people that are really wanting to launch their own brokerage firm right now. And the value that you guys can bring them with your experience, I'm really excited to, and hopefully get a good number of questions. But let's start with introductions. Bob, you want to lead us off with intros?
Sure. I'm Bob Knackel. I've been an investment sales broker in New York City for over 40 years. I had my own company that I ran with Paul Massey for 26 years and 46 days out of that 40 years, which we sold to Cushman & Wakefield in 2014. I then worked at C&W and then was at JLL. And about 6 months ago, started my own company again, BKREA. So back to my entrepreneurial roots. And Joe, thanks for having me on, and delighted to be with my buddies on the screen here and with all of you out there. So thanks for having me.
You betcha. George, you want to jump in?
Absolutely. George Pino, Commercial Brokerage International, based here in Los Angeles, California. We are full service commercial brokerage company, been around since started this firm in 2005. It was actually an offshoot from a commercial real estate division that we started for a very large residential company prior to him being acquired by Sotheby's, which wasn't allowed to do commercial real estate. Hence our genesis.
All right, Eddie.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. My name is Eddie Gonzalez. I'm the designated broker at Create Advisors in Phoenix, Arizona. We are 1 year and 5 months old with a lot of experience under our belt. We've got 16 members. We focus mostly on retail real estate, or dirt that's going to become retail real estate.
Okay. You're the newest one on the group. That's why we have you here, because you've got the most. Well, I guess no, Bob, you're about the same time with your new company, aren't you? Yeah, guys are neck and neck.
Just past the 6-month anniversary a couple of days ago.
All right, very good. Well, Corey,
Nice.
last but not least.
Hey, that's what Z is for. Corey Zelnick, Zelnick and Company. I am in the retail leasing world for about 35 years now. I have my company, Zelnick and Company. This past August was our 18th anniversary. So we've been doing that for quite some time, as you might imagine. Most of my work is in the New York City metropolitan area, although over the last couple of years, we started to reach out a little bit, doing some work with George and you guys out west, and doing some things in Florida and wherever else we can do some business. But I am 100% retail leasing.
Okay, thank you very much. And for those of you that are watching and tuning in, don't hesitate to put any questions in for any of the panelists. Right now, I want to just dive right into what was the process like when you guys were launching your firms. And Bob, you've got experience from the 80s to now, so you've got a depth of knowledge I think everybody wants to hear. But let's, whoever can, if Bob, you want to lead off, but the process you're taking to launch your firm, let's do that.
Sure. Well, I think it clearly is very different. I started my career in 1984, and we formed Massey Knackel back in 1988, November of 88, actually. And at the time, there was very, very little publicly available information. What was available was very inaccurate. So, I always think it's really important to have a value proposition that you can articulate well. So we had the value proposition of, hey, we only sell buildings, only represent sellers, only work on exclusives, and only work in your neighborhood. And we each had a little neighborhood initially, and ended up growing the firm like a jigsaw puzzle. Paul and I had territories next to each other, put somebody to the north, somebody to the south, somebody east, somebody west. Before you knew it, we had 250 people covering all of New York City. And that approach worked really well for us back in those days, because knowing everything about a particular neighborhood allowed you to differentiate yourself. That differentiation led to a competitive advantage, and that's what we're all trying to achieve. Today, I'm taking a little different approach because publicly available information is very, very different today. So We have adopted more of a product specialization with some geographical boundaries layered on top of that. And in addition, because technology has become so prevalent in everything we do and is really going to change the world so much, we've adopted AI in a very big way to everything we're doing. And so the first thing I did when I started the firm was I went out and I hired a COO that knew a little something about real estate, but he knew everything about AI. He's a guy, Seth Samowitz, that has worked in AI for years. He started AI companies. He worked in driverless cars for 5 years. I figured if the guy can make a car drive itself, he could help me sell some buildings. So that was kind of the linchpin of getting us into the mode of being able to adapt AI into what we're doing. But I think everything you want to do, you want to create a specialization, really be able to articulate what your value proposition is and figure out how you can become the go-to broker for people for a particular type of transaction. I haven't worked before with George or with Eddie. I know these guys from being in the industry, but I've seen Corey for decades demonstrate that he is the retail maven in New York, and he's a go-to guy for a lot of owners that have retail space. And that's exactly what we all want to do is create the mind share within our different constituents that we're the go-to person for a particular type of transaction. And that turns the brokerage business from a deal-to-deal business into an annuity business.
Absolutely. George, you want to carry on?
Absolutely. When we started the firm, one of the things that we really want to do is, as you mentioned, Bob, and there's a couple things I want to actually address as well, because I'm one of those old school guys. When I first got into the business, who was right out of college in '88, as you said, the aggregation of information has changed quite a bit, which then causes I remember looking up and doing analysis work in documents on microfiche. And so if anybody wanted any information, they had to come to us. Nowadays, though, it's all aggregated and it's all out there. And yes, I can see Eddie's face. He doesn't even know what microfiche is.
What lake do you go to catch these fish?
Yeah. Really
Not
small.
funny, Eddie.
Just in a bathtub, Eddie. But, I think there's a couple things. One of the things that really caught my eye is that when we started the company, we wanted to make sure that we hired the right people behind us to support us. Real estate, in my opinion, can be trained. What I do is not rocket science. A lot of it is more service as opposed to the real estate specific stuff. And a lot of it is just really being able to analyze and take a look at it. But the real estate in general can be trained and fairly easily. So when we started looking at the changing ways that other companies were doing business, we're looking for our competitive advantage and how we could either market ourselves better, position ourselves better, or, as I said, I did a training class, quality always sells, whether it's in an up market or down market. So if you can position yourself to be the penultimate person to come to, then you're always going to have business. It's going to be a lot more of a stable stream of income, but also you're going to be able to create that more in, as one of the words that Bob said, an annuity. I mean, we're building careers, not chasing deals. And that's how we're looking at it, is building this so that once you become in the client's eyes as the person or the go-to person, whether it's retail in New York or capital markets in New York or in Arizona with retail as well, or in Los Angeles and expansion. If they know you're the one, that you are the best one, or they believe you're the best person, they're always going to come to you to really source you out and use you. So to that end, we hired people that could teach us what we didn't already know. I already know real estate. I don't need a real estate marketer. I know how to market real estate. I just don't know how to market in certain aspects. So when we started making the change to video, we saw the change over to video, our marketing person we ended up hiring was actually had no experience in real estate. They were a graduate from USC. Shout out to my Trojans. But they were a specialist in the applied psychology of marketing. They allowed us to change everything on our websites, the way they look, certain words, our SEO generation. This is something that if I just hired a typical real estate marketing person that I poached from one of the big threes, they wouldn't know any of this information, and we would not have been able to elevate our marketing efforts and our services to our clients. Same goes for down the road. We ended up hiring our current marketing person, has no real estate experience, but she has her master's in social media marketing with the general marketing. So I know that she can really elevate our game. And this is what we bring in. And it's not just for our clients, but also for our agents, because marketing and advertising and getting your name out there, especially in today's world, is probably more important than it was before, because there's so much information that's available to people. You want to be able to stand out in the right way in front of the right clients, and to do that, we need to have people that we can at least tell them where to go, but they're going to show us how to do it.
Right. Eddie, you want to continue?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at Create Advisors, we're similar boat. And it's funny, when I first heard Bob talking 2 years ago, what we were planning on doing and what we were doing is very similar as far as area focused brokerage. And the way that we have our team broken up is into little segments. And we work, the saying that I use is I work, live, and play right down the street from your building. So we have very much feet on the ground and area focused brokerage. In addition to the customer service portion of it, half of our team was trained at the Ritz-Carlton Phoenix. So we met over 20 years ago on the front drive working as valets. And we've always talked about, you take that Ritz-Carlton service and apply it to brokerage. I don't know if you guys hear this often or not, but these brokers won't call us back and there's no customer service involved. That was one of the things that we truly wanted to bring into our business. And it's one of those things. At the Ritz-Carlton, you need to return a phone call within 15 minutes. We take those type of things that we learned at the Ritz and apply it to brokerage, and it has been working very well.
Okay. All right. Last but not least, Corey.
Well, I think I can add an interesting twist maybe to some of the listeners that we have, that while you always like to go into things with a grand plan, when I did what I did in terms of breaking off on my own 18 years ago, it was a little bit out of necessity. So, I was in a situation, and I think people will come across that their current situation is not perfect. And I had to break off from a former partner. And as the documents say, we had philosophical differences. And so I had to move on. And so I did a little bit more on the fly type of stuff, not flying by the seat of my pants, but a little bit on the fly that I don't normally do. And it took me a little bit more time to get sort of perfectly organized, whatever that means. But in listening to what the gentlemen have said so far, there are a lot of crossover. Like when George was referring to who you hire and how you go about planning and making yourself better. Quite frankly, in the beginning, when I first broke off, people would say, "Where's your office?" And my first response was, "Well, I'm here in the city. I have 250 offices." And some of them would give me a weird look. And I'd say, "Yeah, there are 250 Starbuckses. I have 250 offices." And so I would take meetings at the nearest Starbucks based upon who I was meeting. And quite frankly, through a stroke of luck at one of those meetings, I ran into a woman who had worked at a major publicly traded real estate company here in New York and had just left. And she was well-versed. Today we talk AI. 18 years ago was still about the internet and things like that. And she was well-versed in the internet as it relates to retail real estate. And she was a big ticket in terms of a hiring salary, but I didn't hesitate for one bit. She was in the market and I was looking for just that person, and I brought her on. And it was some people thought I was crazy. What do you do? You're paying a secretary $65,000 a year. You don't even have an office. What are you doing? It was the best investment I ever made. And so I went from there. I never planned. It was never my plan. I look at, Bob as a great friend and a great mentor to me, and the things that he's done and the way he built Massey and all of that. And it's fabulous. Obviously, that was never my plan. I wanted to keep it tight. I've always kept it about 10 or under in terms of a brokerage force. That became part of my plan, and it was about service, because that's what we do. And how could I service people? How could I inform them with what I do and the market share and like Bob was saying, data, how you compile it. I can go all the way back. What was it, Bob? What was the owner's book? The Sanborn map and then the big blue owner's book, right?
They had a Sanborn map out here too. Wow. I haven't heard that in
every
ages.
other owner you called out of that blue book died 20 years ago.
That's right. Exactly. But, so we utilize the information and then what do we all try to do as we listen? And we're all, generally different age groups to a degree. You got to go with the flow. You got to consistently go with the flow. Okay. And what Bob's doing with Seth and the AI and I have, I can't make this company function without my right-hand person, Stephanie Malloy. And, she's all on top of the AI and the marketing and all of those things and the social media. And, I don't mind, stealing Bob's lines because they're great and they're lines that work. And quite frankly, right. What do you say, Bob? And I live it too, right? It's not who you know, but who knows you. And so we put ourselves out there. And so that's part of the evolution of the company. So yeah, I did mine a little bit out of necessity. And, part of what we all go through, I started the company August 1st of 2006. And then, a year and a half later, we're into a financial crisis. You got to survive. A few years after that, you get COVID and you just deal. And I think that's what we all like about being independent is how you deal with situations. You don't have to answer to the C&Ws, the JLLs, and the Newmarks, and they're all great companies. But I drifted, and I apologize. But yeah, I figured it out, and now I do it a lot more organized. And I think having a master plan is the best way. But if you're an independent contractor, you're an entrepreneur, you want to be a business owner, sometimes you got to figure it out on the fly.
Yeah, very much agree. On that point, when George and I launched Commercial Brokers International in 2005, we thought, we're just going to start this really great company. We're going to give good splits. Agents will be dying to be part of it. That's not the case. You've got to go out and find top-notch people. Can we walk through you guys, how you guys do your recruiting? What processes do you go through? Because I think somebody that's new or starting their own brokerage firm really has to have an understanding of how do you really go about this recruiting process. So whoever wants to take a lead on it, go ahead.
I'll go real, since I've been going last every time. I will tell you that the recruiting process in this business is brutal. It's brutal. It really is. It's certainly what I'm up against here and on the leasing side, and I don't know if Bob has seen it yet on the investment sales side and what have you, is that, when you're looking for quality talent, you've got to find some people with some track record and things like that. This is very much not a LinkedIn profile or an Indeed.com kind of thing. You got to be out on the street, literally and figuratively. And what happens is, there's a set of people in this business that are new to the business. So I don't know them. I've never come across them. How can I recruit them? And then there's the other group that's up here that are partner level people, like a Bob Zilk and thing like that. I'm not recruiting them. So it's this group here in the middle. And what I've been up against, and others have too, because I hear it from other firms, is that the big companies are writing checks. They're giving these guys checks to come. And I'm a small independent company. We make money. We're happy we're making money, but I can't write out signing bonuses. And so I tried to discuss, elevated commission splits for a period of time to induce them a little bit. I've tried that tactic, and it's worked once or twice. I've tried potential equity down the road. These are some of the things that I can put out there, but it's a brutal process. It's a brutal process.
Yeah,
it really is.
I'd love to just jump in there and comment because I'm of the same mindset, Corey, that it can be a brutal process. And same type of clientele, same type of agents that we're looking at, um, and what we found, what's interesting is that, we have done some creative structures where maybe we'll give a first couple of deals 100% split. So
Right.
that way they're getting their bonus, but it'll be worked out. But I also explained to them that when they, a lot of it is my sales or my recruiting is education based. When we created the company, there's an old adage in real estate that 90% of the business is done by 10% of the agents. Well, a lot of people assume that it's 10% in the company. No, I can have a group of 10 agents here that are top performing agents, and they're going to be part of that top 10%. And that's what we look for. And part of that is with education of our agents. We want to make sure our agents are the most educated agents that are out there. So when I'm talking to somebody that's in that mid-level, I will actually take an approach of trying to co-align with what are your actual goals for your career. Are you looking to build something for yourself? Are you looking to brand yourself? Are you looking to do this? This is how we can help you that the big firms are not going to be able to do for you. And so we're setting that apart so that we're trying to give more of an education-based aspect. In addition to that, company culture for us is one of the most important things. I used to go into work when my daughter was, before she graduated college, I used to say, I got a teenage girl at home in high school. I don't need any drama in my life, so we're going to not have any at the office. And, but that allowed me to really create a culture that's almost, a lot of us, and I don't want to use this word because a lot of it's gotten a little bit of a negative connotation, but we are family. And so we use that for part of our recruiting as well, in the sense that, one, we're promoting our company culture, but also we're talking to our agents. Who have you talked to that you like? Let's make those introductions. Let's get that. And we bonus those agents so that if they do end up coming on board, they're getting a little thank you, so to speak, for a certain period of time as well. And that seems to have worked pretty well for us as well.
Yeah, I'll say from my side that my recruiting now is very, very light because I want to keep the company small. I don't want to get to 250 people again. I don't think it's necessary. But I'll tell you, the recruiting that worked really well for us back in the old MK days was we had a ton of people who were coming to us, although we were very proactive about going out to schools, to career days, things like that, and actively recruited at colleges. Wanted to get people into the business very young that didn't have real estate experience before, so we could train them our way. And fortunately, we had a very clear dominant position in investment sales. So we had a lot of folks coming to us. But we told our HR people, and probably the best thing we ever did was tell them, look, you interview a candidate, look for the things that are generally predictive of success in the business. Did somebody excel in a competitive environment? Did they play team sports? Were they captain of the debating team? Were they editor of the school newspaper or president of the class, or something like that? That usually was a good indicator. Nothing was great or worked 100% of the time, but some of these things increased the probability of success. But we always told our HR folks, look, when you meet with somebody, no matter how many boxes they check, if you don't feel like, hey, I'd love to go grab lunch with this person, or love to go grab a drink with this person, you can't offer them a job, because you want the clients want to work with people that they like, that you can have a connection with. And so that probably more than anything was a great indicator of how someone was going to do in the business. It's good they warm up to the people that they were interacting with. And so that was a big key for us back when we were trying to grow the company very big.
Thank you, Bob. Eddie, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so we've had a pretty unique situation, and everybody's just falling in our laps, and they're all rock stars, Joe. So I'm not really sure what you were talking about before, but no. So I have taken really good advice from all of the gentlemen on the screen right now, and I've got, I don't know how many years worth of experience also in my office. what our plan was, just like what Corey was saying, you set this plan, right? And then it normally doesn't go as the way you design it. Our plan was year one, literally systems and procedures in addition to working the deals that we're working, which that's kind of what we did. Year two was all about honing it. And then year three was going to be when we started bringing brokers on. I am going to be careful how I say this. There is a gentleman who was a professional athlete that joined our team. He is going to be starting shortly, and I'm going to kind of leave it at that. But huge kudos to Bob, because Bob, you're one of the ones that planted that seed in our head as to, okay, that's one of those indicators that you want to look at. But one of the other things that we've been doing as a team, 5 of us on the team plus our new guy, is taking coffee meetings with other brokers. So we're out there seeing who's doing what, seeing what volume they're doing, and just seeing if that's going to be a good fit down the road for year 3 when we really start growing the team. So that's kind of what we're doing proactively, and keep an eye on LinkedIn for a big announcement coming pretty soon.
That's awesome. Look, I think the likability factor is very underrated and not really focused on. And, that's one of the things that I thought was really great about our culture was that, even though we had 250 people, somebody at our company would get married and there'd be 3 or 4 dozen people from the company there. And we had, several years, we had 20 or 25 guys get a beach house in the Hamptons together for the summer. And often you'd see 2, 3, 4 couples go on vacation to the Caribbean together. And it was that type of environment. So you felt like you were working with your friends, not your coworkers. And that's always a very, very positive thing for an ecosystem where you're trying to achieve difficult things.
Well, there's something, Bob, you created something special at that company because you had that company culture, but yet if you look back over the last few years, how many of those people are top performers and own their own company out there? I mean, I don't know what the exact number, I'm sure you do, but there's a good number of them are top performers, and typically top performers come with a lot of ego, right? And yet you guys were somehow able to harness this company culture to maintain status quo, and it seemed to work very, very well. That had to be hard to do.
That has more to do with the management style. And I always say that that everybody talks about servant leadership, but a lot of it are hollow words. You really have to put your people ahead of you. You want them to do better than you do. You have to build them up and make them believe in themselves. Somebody who has confidence and believes they can do it can achieve so much more than somebody who doesn't. And so whether it is building their self-esteem, giving them constant feedback, both positive and negative. Negative feedback actually makes people feel like you really care about them,
right?
If it's done properly. And so, we got people to do better than their best. We got people to believe in themselves. We built up people's egos and self-esteem, and they did some really great things. So today in the New York City investment sales world, there are 30 companies or divisions of companies that are either owned by or run by people that we taught the business to. And that's the legacy of the whole Massey-Knakal story. That's the legacy I'm most proud of, is that we changed people's lives very tangibly for the better. And it's great to see. And as long as I'm not competing with them, I wish them all the luck in the world.
But if you're competing with them, they got to go.
That's right.
Yep.
They got to go. Yeah, all 4 of you guys are big on marketing and branding, but I want to hear from you guys how important your branding is for your companies. George, you want to start on this one?
Yeah, I think branding is, combination between marketing and branding. Branding is typically the perception of people, what they're going to see and who they are. The idea is whenever they see our logo, our name, or yourself, that they immediately think about the real estate or specific type of real estate that you do. That's branding. Now, the marketing is getting it out there. But with branding, I think it's important for both the company as well as the agents. everything that when we went up and designed this, a lot of companies, especially the larger companies, don't like agents to brand themselves because it waters down their own brand. Number one. Bob, stop laughing. I know we all know this is my belief beforehand, but a lot of the large firms don't like it because, one, it waters down their own brand, but also it all of a sudden makes everybody realize the company doesn't make the agent makes the company. And really, that's where you can start standing out. And, when I talk to agents that we are recruiting, I tell them straight out, I don't want an agent ever in my office that the only reason they're here is because they have no other options or they don't know how to go anywhere else because the company made them who they are. I want agents that are here because they have other options, but they know this is the best place for them and for their business. And that's our approach when we go about on our branding. So part of our branding, I think branding can be utilized in many ways to overcome a lot of hurdles for younger agents. It can almost create, if done right, it can create a perception of expertise in a field, or it, as the go-to. But at the same time, a lot of times, I think, especially younger people, don't do the branding right. They're more about entertainment versus education and branding. So, I had a young agent here that was, in his mind, TikTok famous, a couple, and he had a lot of followers, almost 100,000 followers and all kinds of likes. And, at one point he had come in and said, well, and I knew the answer to this, but he was saying, we were talking about marketing, and he was saying, I'm branding myself. I said, yeah, but are you branding yourself as a real estate agent for your company, for your business, for your career? He goes, well, I get more likes than you ever will on any of your videos. I said, well, I'm not doing the videos for likes. I'm doing it for business. And even if I have 50 likes, if it's the right 50 people and I generate a couple, 2, 3 deals from that, it's a hell of a lot better than having 10,000 likes and never having a deal. So, I think a combination of the branding has to be good, but it has to be focused within the company itself and the company culture to make sure that it's not just, I'm doing this for the sake of being fun and being out there. I know I George. I'm on that. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
I love that. That's so true. And something that we've been really focused with our branding and with everything that we're doing is being kind of that local expert. And it's been really fun to be a part of it. So one of the first things that we did, we've got a little building in an area called Arcadia in Phoenix, Arizona. And we put a huge sign, the biggest sign that we could put on the front of our building. And that was 100% by design. 48,000 vehicles go past our building every single day. And a lot of the stuff that I'm focused on is that particular road, Indian School Road. So when I go in, and sometimes I'll have my Create hat on or my Create shirt on, people are always, oh, you're building right down the street. It's just one of those things that, to what you were speaking about, George, it gives you a little bit of familiarity. And then it's like, okay, there's a little bit of credibility behind it. And then you can really open up and start those conversations. And I feel also that's what's been really good social media wise for us, is it gives you the credibility to then open the door to then get the business. So that's what we've been focused on. It's working really well.
Yeah, no, I think we follow, sort of follow suit as well. And, Bob can appreciate this with his, I forget what your Pantone green is, Bob, but I have my Pantone 021 orange. That is my color. And the people that will, that I'll come across and I'll tell them what I do. And, oh yeah, I see that Z in the window. And so it's important, and the color is important. So we stick to that, to your point, George, in terms of some of the marketing of the company, having it out that way with our signs up and whatever. And then clearly we cross that over into the social media and the branding. And I yell, quote, at my guys, when you're out on the street doing your stuff, turn the camera around. and then talk about the streets you're walking. People love that. They love the video. They love the, and utilize that. And I promote that constantly. And, I have of my group of 8, I have, 4 youngsters, really true youngsters and newbies. And I talk about it. I constantly remind them. I said, look, you're an entrepreneur. You have a business that is you. We provide the umbrella, but you have a business that is you. So market you and do that. And so we use the social media as best we can. And I'm trying to, sort of pump them up more to do it individually. And I told them, and some of you guys know this, but I'm in a walking boot because I had a stress fracture, but it's coming off. And I told them, I said, you guys, man, you guys are all dead meat when this boot comes off, because I'm taking you out on the street by the hand and I'm going to shoot the videos with you. So, we're going to have some fun with it. But, that's the business that, our business is the street, the whole work for literally, right? I mean, I think that ties directly into what Bob was saying earlier, that people want to work with people they like. And this marketing and branding allows you to take the first step out, because they're not going to know if they like you or not, right, until they see you or who see who you are or meet with you. But if you're doing this type of marketing and branding, it takes those barriers down a little bit so that they may actually reach out to you. And we all know inbound leads are a hell of a lot better than cold calling. Hey,
Cor, question for you. Do you have a big orange Z on your boot?
Good call. I should have done that, right? Because I was still out there scooting around canvassing. I should have done that.
And just
now, Bob, I bet he does fight this afternoon. Thank you very much.
I don't want to next time, but maybe I got to wear it till Tuesday, so maybe I'll do that right after.
Or maybe a Pantone 021 orange Z on your tattoo on your chest.
Easy does it there, George.
Yeah, no, our old color used to be PMS 348.
PMS.
Love it. We changed the colors now. I have a similar color for my new company, but it's a totally different number today. So they change it over the past 40 years. They changed the numbering system.
I know we're joking about it, but the colors are very important.
They are.
It can make you stand out. When I was growing up, my father was an auctioneer. When he was auctioning off property, he had signs and they were yellow and brown. And I'm like, what? And I said, why would you? I mean, I was, in high school. And he goes, Joe, everybody else is red, blue. He goes, people can see my sign. They don't even have to read it. They know it's Jerry Killinger's sign. And so he branded himself that way. And here's a guy that barely had a high school education. So I don't know how he figured that out, but it did. It worked very, very well. All his signs were that butt ugly yellow with brown.
Wasn't your dad the consultant to the San Diego Padres?
Yeah, there you go.
Probably could have been, but I don't think he ever watched a baseball game in his life. What platform is working best for you guys to get your company out there? Let me rephrase that. If you're new, starting over, well, I guess a couple of you really are, where would you be marketing your company first and foremost? On all platforms, on one platform, where would you be going?
Go ahead, Eddie. What are you doing?
I would say all of them. So the way that we're kind of playing things out right now, we've got a social media manager who is handling our LinkedIn profiles, in addition to us handling our own LinkedIn profiles. I'm doing a lot on TikTok, per your suggestion and per your video that I just watched. I'm starting in a little bit more into YouTube, and we're going to do some kind of crossover from podcast into YouTube as well. But we're literally doing everything. And if we're just talking listing platforms, we're definitely using CoStar, but Crexy seems to be, they're the up and comers. I really like the Crexy Pro platform with regards to the way that it flows and the way that you get a lot of inbound, frequent emails with regards to who's very active and who is active on your listings.
Right. Yeah, mostly looking for, like, if you're finding more reach with LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, which I'm working on a video of the hire anybody that makes over $100,000 a year. What platform are they on the most? Then it really breaks it down. I'm going to break it down by how long people are typically on these platforms. It's really interesting. It was an eye opener for me. I'm working on it. Just kind of it's going to take a while. But Corey, what platforms are you using? I know you're on Instagram. I see you guys there regularly.
Yeah, we've been putting
And
Instagram.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, Instagram's been real good to us. So we're going to certainly continue there. LinkedIn has been strong, and I'm slowly trying to figure out the Twitter game a little bit. I don't get a lot of retail excitement, but I gotta work on that. And then my next thing will be TikTok, and then Steph and I will work on YouTube thereafter. But I want to get the TikTok thing going a little bit more.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I'm shocked actually at the reach of social media. I've only been on since January of 23, and I will tell you that my most vivid observation of which platforms are the best or that produce the most business is that they are all extraordinarily different. And, I have Mo Regalado, who's my social media manager that does all my posting and everything. And I write my own content, but we post the same exact content everywhere on all the platforms. And it's amazing how with the same piece of content, on one platform, it goes this way. Another platform, it goes that way. Another one, it's over here. And I think the most interesting thing is that if you did a Venn diagram of folks who are on social media, the overlap within that Venn diagram would be minuscule, because I don't think people have enough time to be on every one. I think that most people pick one thing and that's what they're on. And so I think it's important, if you want to get out to the biggest audience possible, to be on all the different platforms, because you have different audiences on each of them and very, very little overlap. But I will say that there's no channel better, no platform better, no activity to do that's better than making phone calls. I will tell you that what has become obvious to me is that, my client base essentially are property owners in New York City that want to sell their property. I would bet that of my client base, probably less than 15% are on social media. Mm-hmm. So you get caught up with, I have X followers, I got so many likes, I got so many impressions. I don't think I think it might lull you into a false sense of feeling like you're going to be successful in real estate, because those numbers may not translate into money-making opportunities. Fortunately for me, there have been some that have come from it, and there are tangential benefits that I myself and my firm are getting from the exposure on social media. But I will tell you that making prospecting calls remains the number one revenue generating activity that a broker can do. You have to be on the phone, you have to be calling people, and you have to be meeting with people. And it was the same exact way 40 years ago. So not much has changed.
And it's going to be the same exact way 40 years from now. I mean, one of the first classes I give for new agents, Bob, I tell them that, what does your license say? Because the last time I looked at it, I don't see a real estate influencer or real estate expert or anything else. It says sales agent.
Yeah.
Sales.
Yeah.
Get out there and call. Yeah. So, but it's a part of it. I think social media in its place and the platforms that we're using it's structured in a way to help those calls out, to do that, where, meaning I have some agents that love putting out great, amazing newsletters and things, but they're using that to reach out. And when they're part of the cold calling for the initial introductions, they're capturing great emails and contacts and then following up, where the content that they're putting out now is starting to generate business, where people are calling them back saying, hey, my son would like to be on this list as well. Can you add him to it? And this. But what's interesting is that never would have happened. The great content and everything is wonderful, but no one's going to see it and understand who you are if you're not out there, at least the right people. Yeah. If you're not out there and putting it out there. And the best way to do that, the highest contact rate is going to be, and the highest closing rate, cold calling, number one.
Well, I think as you know, we're all sitting here as business owners in this business. It's incumbent upon all of us, to educate the kids in our business that are coming in new, that think that it's, one directional, which is just utilizing that phone, whether it's social media or texting or emailing. I sit here with my guys and girls on a regular basis when they talk to me about some of their transactionally or relationship wise with people that they're trying to develop. I say, go meet them. Or in a transaction, I say, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. No, don't pick it up and text. Pick it up and dial it and talk to somebody. And so I do think that there's that incoming generation that really has no clue about it. And it's incumbent, like I said, it's incumbent upon us to teach it. I mean, ask one of the younger kids that work for your company. Ask them to handwrite a letter. Ask them to handwrite a thank you note. And let me tell you something. It's going to be the ugliest piece of shit you ever saw, because they don't know how to write. They don't, and it's like crazy. And I have a 22-year-old daughter. I understand it and I see it, but like when you do it with work, you live it. So we have to, educate them in that regard just the same.
Yeah, but Corey, I think to add on to that point, we own businesses, but yet every single broker is really the CEO of their own business, whether you're at one of the big shops or you're a one-man shop on your own. Everyone is their own business. And I think you have to look at it that way. If you are completely relying on the place that you work, and someone made this point earlier, I think George, it was you, if you're relying on the place you work to feed you business, that's a very, very precarious position to be in, because if all of a sudden you're not the person of the day and not getting those leads, you have nothing. So you need to be able to create a brand around yourself and realize you are your own business. And to the extent that you want to have freedom and not care whether you get fired or not need the company. I mean, the goal of every broker should be, hey, the company needs me more than I need the company. Then you living a completely carefree life. You don't have to worry about what decisions people above you might make. And that's a great position to be in.
It absolutely is. Guys, when we all launched our companies, I think back to how naive I was. George and I just thought, we're going to do this. Like we said, agents are going to come with us because we're going to build this great company. It turns out that wasn't the case. Going out and finding good recruiting is really difficult, and it's changed now a lot. But what responsibilities, what should be my priorities if I'm I want to launch my own firm? Where should my priorities lie in the first year? Because I know now where we were at in the beginning, what we thought was so important turned out it really was not. But George, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think if anyone's really starting to look and think about this, number one, and we haven't really touched on it, and maybe this is a little bit old of me, but I actually still remember my business days in business school, and they said start with a business plan, a mission statement. What are you trying to do? So that exactly who the company is, what you're trying to do, but also more about creating the company culture and the tone and your niche. Where are you going to be? I think that's the very first, most important step when creating that company, because you have to understand that this is the end goal of where we're going. And now we can backtrack to it. How am I going to get to that level? How am I going to create that company? What am I going to do? What are the steps I'm going to take at that point? So, first and foremost, I would outline everything. And ultimately, and when I say outline everything, I mean down to the granular detail of when you're starting a company, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? And outlining it doesn't mean you personally necessarily, but have the right team members around you that can help you with that as well. But if you don't have that, you still have the resources to be able to do this. And really, it's how are you going to differentiate your company? because ultimately you're going to be a new startup. So why do people want to use you other than your own clients? How are you going to differentiate your company? And then more importantly, how am I going to get that word out and position it so that people believe that I'm the different one or the better company out there? And, I think that goes hand in hand. And then really everything is about people. Ultimately, you want to make sure you have the right people behind you that have the same goals and thought process. If you have, I remember we had a heart-to-heart conversation at one point with one of our top producing agents and said, I don't think this is the right company for you, because the company culture, it was just poisoning it, and it was starting to affect other people's business. Want to make sure that you're going to surround yourself and that you live up to the standards that you set. Ultimately, I think that's where you should start off with, but it also gives you a full plan of action of how you're going to do your business down the road, and then end it as well if you need to.
Yeah, that's good. Now, Bob, I'm sure when you launched Massey Knackle, you were in your 20s then, right?
Yeah, it was 26.
Wow.
26. And now you're relaunching another company at 32.
62, baby, 62.
62. I went with 32, but all right, we'll go with 62. Your priorities are probably a little different between those two companies. Can you kind of walk us through how that changed, how that evolved?
You know what, Joe? I don't know that it was really that different. It's a very, very simple business that we do. It's just very hard, but it's creating awareness, letting people know where you are, what you do. If you follow my buddy Ed Winslow on social media, it's about proof stacking, constantly demonstrating proof that you have the capability to do what you say you do. And it's some very, very basic fundamental things you just have to do over and over. We're not reinventing the wheel. Yeah, we're using some new strategies, some new tactics, some AI, some technology. But at the end of the day, you have a potential client out there, and you have to make sure that they think of you when they want to sell. Look, think about this. In New York City, Manhattan, as a microcosm, south of 96th Street, 27,649 buildings. The average turnover rate of that stock over 40 years has been 2.6%. If you figure half the stuff in the that actually sells, half the stuff that goes on the market actually sells, that's telling you about 5% of the stuff will go on the market. So if you are making calls and 19 people in a row hang up on you, you should feel pretty good. The next one's going to be a yes. But what that statistic tells you also is that somebody sells a building once every 40 years. So they're not transacting all the time. So you have to be top of mind when something happens that's going to make them want to sell. It's death, divorce, taxes, partnership disputes, what have you, capital gains tax rate change. Something happens and they say, I need to sell my building. The very next thing you want them to think is, oh, let me call Bob so I can see what my building is worth and I have to use them. So how do you do that? You do all of the different market presence campaigns. And yes, that's changed over time, but yet there are a lot of things that are fundamentally the same. And that is, make your calls, send your emails, send your texts, send hard mail. Hard mail, very underrated. I still think it's a great thing to use, but go to networking events, speak in public, go to meetings, meet with people. All of these very basic things, create content, be on social media, whatever it is to get out there. But it's just about staying top of mind with people and then constantly reinforcing the fact that you have the ability to do what your potential client needs done, and you've done it very successfully for other people. If you can do those two things, the rest of everything is going to fall into place.
That's right. It's consistency, it's discipline, it's patience, and it never ends. It never ends.
Yeah, the patience thing especially, right?
Oh man,
that's hard.
Shit, 2,500 square foot leases that take 11 months. Come on, that's crazy. It's insane. So you really got to teach patience.
Yeah,
and understand patience.
Yeah.
Something that we realized, and we had a really long runway in between deciding that we wanted to do this. I got my brokerage license, and then COVID hits, And we thought, okay, this is going to be the perfect time to pull out because there's going to be a slowdown and that'll give us time to truly build the business.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Arizona, that's when business ramped up. We were taking people in, doing leases, helping people buy buildings. It went crazy. So we weren't able to kind of pull away. But while we were kind of doing that process, we were getting ourselves prepared to make the exit from the big company. What was so interesting to me was having the conversations with our clients. And someone had told me, Eddie, prepare for about 80% of your clients to stick with the big name brand, and you're probably going to take about 20% of your clients with you. It was completely the opposite for us. We were having these conversations, the relationships were built, and the amount of knowledge and the amount of advice that we were given. Oh, hey, you need to go talk to this guy. Okay, but we're keeping it under the radar type situation. But the introductions that were made and the support from the community, I had multiple phone calls. People would say, wait, aren't you with this other company? I'm like, no, I was with that company, but now we started our own thing. Buildings right down the street from yours. Holy smokes, we want to help support local businesses. And it just keeps happening over and over again. It puts such a big smile on my face. So to answer your question, I would focus on those clients, and you don't know who those clients know. That could then turn it into a really interesting interaction and be very helpful.
Okay. One thing I want to touch on, and everybody's talking about it, guys, it's AI. Do you think AI is leveling the field between the boutique firms and the big three? What are your thoughts on that? You do?
Definitely marginalizing the need to be at a big firm.
Right.
I mean, you can, if you use AI properly, you could be a kid right out of college working in your mom's basement in your underwear, and you could appear to be a giant company.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be an issue that's on the mind of these larger firms, as there really is becoming less and less need to be at the big firm, because you can access with publicly available information, as voluminous as it is, and with AI as powerful as it is, there is less reliance needed on large companies.
Right.
And what's also interesting about that, and it's 100% true. I sort of look back to when I started my company, and I hired that young lady. At the time, the internet is a great leveler, right? Because everybody's has gotten it, but how do you utilize it? So I grabbed somebody who really knew how to use it with purpose. They knew it for the retail leasing business, so I grabbed it. But as far as this technology goes, yeah, we all got to keep rolling with it. But what also comes into play, and I know, Bob, you have mom and pop owners and things like that, and I have a lot of mom and pop businesses that we come across. What's also interesting is the access that the customer has to that information. Mm-hmm. So you have to be on top of your game. You can't just, you have to be factual. You have to be studied in the information you put out, because they can press a button and cross-check you. And I find that comes up a lot. So it's important to really be on top of this for multi-purpose reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as far as leveling the playing field, jumping in real quick, I think AI definitely has that opportunity to, if utilized correctly, but I think the playing field's been leveled quite a bit for the most part. Unless you're going into for a smaller boutique company starting off or so, going off trying to do capital markets, unless you have a really built out network, it's going to be difficult. But in that wheelhouse, but that really represents only a very small portion of the commercial real estate that's out there. So, you still have 98% of all the other real estate that you still play in. That's my sandbox. And I think that field's already been leveled somewhat, especially with a lot of the aggregation of the data. It goes back to, I know small firms that are putting out amazing content. Okay. I'll ring my own bell here for a little bit, or my company's bell. But, we were just up on a hotel listing that we're going up against 3 large national firms with their hotel group. We are not hospitality specialists, but we know how to get it out to the people, right people, and get it out there. And I do have some people that do work hospitality. We went out and we gave our presentation. We were told our presentation was the most thorough, most analytical, and the well written. And the other firms were all part of they're large national firms. We won the award to market that property and get it sold. We would not have been able to do that without the tools that were out there, such as CoStar or Placer AI, things like that we're utilizing now to level that playing field, because I can't afford 20 analysts on my team, but I can afford to buy the right tools for my team. And if I can do that and train them and how to use it efficiently, then we can compete against just about anybody.
Yeah, I agree. We're coming on an hour, guys, and so I kind of want to wrap it up, but I do want to hear, what AI tools are you guys using right now that you're just absolutely can't live without? Why don't you go ahead? Bob, you want to start?
I'll start by saying, come to Massimo Con in November, because I'm going to give a talk on this very topic, talking about AI, what we use, how we use it, why we use it, that kind of thing. And I promised Rod I wouldn't talk about it until I give this talk at Massimo Con.
Nice.
And guys, I apologize. I got to sign off. We ran over a little bit.
Yeah.
And, I have some folks here for a pitch. I got to get in there and get some business.
Oh,
Put all this stuff that I learned today to good use. So I say,
we appreciate it.
Joe, thanks for having me on. George, Corey, Eddie, great to see you guys. And
Likewise.
go get it, everybody. Go get some listings and make some money.
Absolutely.
All right. Good luck on your pitch.
Later, Bob.
Take care, guys.
All right. See you. George, you want to continue with the AI?
AI, well, a couple of AI tools. Obviously, there's Perplexity, which everyone seems to love right now. ChatGPT. ChatGPT, I think if you can utilize, especially if you're using custom GPTs, that you can really start doing it. What we look for in our company, there's 2 things that we're looking for. Number one is I look for what the agents want. And ultimately, the agent and most companies, especially larger companies that are incorporating AI, they're looking at AI for efficiencies. How can I create efficiencies for my company so that maybe on the back end, I don't need to hire somebody else and I save money that way? That doesn't really help the agent that much. We're looking at AI issues that can help the agent become a lot more efficient, either lead generation type AI, looking for stuff that will instantly put out a heat map or goodness gracious, mental fart. Put out not a heat map, but a void analysis that would take days or even a week or 2 to put together normally. So we're utilizing that type of AI, and you can find that. And one of the things, going back to what you were saying earlier, Eddie, that Crexy Pro, if you're just getting in and you can't afford a lot of the AI tools, Crexy Pro does have some Placer AI functionality on the pro level side, which shows you the ability and it gives you a little bit more there. So that's a way that you can get into it without maybe buying the full suite access. But I think more important on AI is, there's an old saying that the best IT person is not the one who knows the most about computers, but knows the best way to Google about a computer and ask Google a question. And AI is the exact same thing. AI is not going to help somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about or do the analysis or do whatever for them, because junk in is junk out. If you're not going to prompt it correctly, you're not going to be able to get the right information out to actually do you any good. So ultimately, you want to make sure that any AI system that you choose, that you're going to use it the right way. And potentially see. I mean, when we're interviewing and looking at AI systems, I'm asking them, well, can it do this? Can it do this? Have you thought about using it for this? And the person's like, oh, wow, okay, I need to get that up to the designers because that's a good idea. But that's where being boots on the ground, having that experience to be able to guide the agents on how to use that AI to be the most productive for them. And that's where we come in.
Yeah, I think we're about Perplexity AI, ChatGPT. We utilize those things. We tie it into the Placer AI and the Buxton reports and all of those things that we put together for our guys. And quite frankly, this is all moving at lightning speed, as we all know it.
It is.
And I tell them when I point to my group out there, I say, when you guys go home, keep an eye out over the weekend and see what starts up again, see what's next, and just keep an eye out, because I mean, one of the, clearly one of the big things here is the ability for all of us with our small firms. And, we alluded to how we're different than the big firms. I think we're all in the same place, is that we can be fluid. We can be fluid, right? You can't, you try this at another company, and we don't need to harp on it, but it's like turning a battleship, right?
Yeah.
We want to make change. Joe, you look at George, and George, you look at Joe, and then you make the change. And, I ask Steph, and we just make the change. And I'm sure Eddie's seeing the same thing. And I think that's a big thing, going sort of full circle in this whole conversation about starting your own company. Quite frankly, that's one of the key things, is that ability to be that fluid.
Yeah, to be able to pivot makes, we've had to do that a few times, and we try a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot coming out right now. So you're going to have to try a lot of stuff, take calls, test it, see if it works for you. And we've done a good number of calls with, they're not really AI, they're wraps around either Gemini or one of the other, or ChatGPT, but some of it's going to be amazing. It's not really there right now, but some of it's not even that great. So really, you have to test the waters and see what's working for you. But Eddie, why don't you wrap us up? Let's take us home, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
What AI are you thinking?
The one that I'm utilizing the most, and I would say I'm literally in there every single day, is ChatGPT. And I'm just running all sorts of, I like to say that I'm trying to break it. I just run anything through it that I can, and just trying to figure out, okay, what can I do with it versus what can't I do with it? And it was interesting. A lot of my architect friends are utilizing it as well. And when I first got it, I'm like, okay, what can it really do? And I thought, all right, I would be able to just take it and plug in a bunch of information, and it was going to build a marketing package for me. Well, we all know that's not how it works. And I'm just constantly learning and constantly playing and constantly trying to break it. And that's how I'm just learning it and experiencing it. And I think that's what ladies and gentlemen really need to do to see how it's going to work for their business. Right. And to Corey's point, right, we're able to do that as a small firm. I remember in the old days, I would bring up what I thought was a great idea, and it would have to go 3 weeks worth of decision makers to get back to, I mean, if we're dealing with that now, 3 weeks later, is it even relevant?
Right. You're on the next one. You're on to the next one already.
Yeah, you're on to the next one. So that's what I love about what we're doing. That's what I love about the small business model. And we are a nimble ship that can turn quickly.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep. Well, do check out perplexity.ai. It's amazing, the data that you can pull up there. But well, guys, thank you very much for this. I think this is important. I wish somebody had done this for all of us, right? When we're launching our firm, we know the mistakes that we made. The goal of this call today was really this video today was to bring awareness of listen. We're there for you also. If anybody's watching this and they want to really further the conversation, let me know if you want me to do another one of these videos. I'll wrangle these guys up. We'll make it happen. But guys, thank you very much. I think you provided a lot of valuable information for somebody thinking about opening their own shop.
Yeah, Joe, thank you for setting this up. I think even I learned a few things from these old guys, and even the youngster there.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, George. Thank you, George.
How'd you know, Corey?
Joe, again, if you guys have any questions for any of the panelists, put it in the comments, because this is going to be on YouTube as well. You'll be able to see it there and refer back to it. Put your comments down below. And if you could, please give us a like. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe.
Joe, thank you so much for putting this together.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys. Have a good day.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.